the second practice problems, we have Mr. Bailey purchased some groceries that cost D dollars. He paid with a $50 bill. Write an expression for the amount of change he will receive. Declare your variable. So reading this problem, we can see that our variable is D dollars. And D dollars is the cost of the groceries. Mr. Bailey purchased some groceries that cost D dollars. So let's go ahead and put here, let D be the cost of the groceries. Now we need to write an expression for how much change he will receive if he paid with a $50 bill. So what we're going to do is start with a $50 bill. That's the amount Mr. Bailey gives to the cashier. The cashier takes it and subtracts the cost of the groceries, D, and returns the result of this subtraction to Mr. Bailey. Let's move on to number 2. Katie bakes 40 pastries and makes coffee for 200 people. Write an algebraic expression that represents the cost of the order. You can see here that they have declared the variables for us. Let P, cost of one pastry. Let C be the cost of 1 cup of coffee. So if Katie is baking 40 pastries and makes 200 people coffee, we need to write an algebraic expression involving the variable P and the variable C. So let's start with the pastries. She bakes 40 pastries and the cost of one pastry is P. So the cost here would be 40 times P, or 40P. She makes coffee for 200 people, and the cost of 1 cup of coffee is C. So to add to this order, we would add 200C. Let's move on. Jocelyn makes X dollars per hour working at the grocery store and N dollars per hour babysitting. Write an expression that describes her earnings if she babysat for 25 hours and worked at the grocery store for 15 hours. What variables were already declared for you? And we can see as we read through the problem that X is declared for us, and X is the dollars per hour for working at the grocery store. N is also declared for us, N dollars per hour for babysitting. So what variables were already declared for us? X and N were declared for us, where X is the dollars per hour for working at the grocery store, and N is the dollars per hour for babysitting. So what is the earnings? We now need to write an expression that describes her earnings if she babysat for 25 hours and worked at the grocery store for 15 hours. Babysat for 25 hours, and she is earning N dollars per hour babysitting. So 25, the number of hours she babysat, times N, the amount she's making per hour babysitting. And that's a plus, and she worked at the grocery store for 15 hours. So we put down how many hours she worked at the grocery store, and we multiply that by how much she earned per hour working at the grocery store. That would be our variable x, 15x. Let's move on to the last question. A certain cell phone company plan cost $55 per month plus additional usage costs or charges. If X is the number of cell phone minutes used above the plan amount, and if Y is the number of megabytes of data used above the plan amount, interpret the following expression. 0.25x represents, well, 0.25x would mean that the cell phone minutes used above the plan amount was 0.25 times the total cost.